Hi guys. Okay, so today what we wanted to look at is how the quality of our relationships is reflective of our inner landscape.
It's a pretty cool topic, isn't
It's a
it?
good topic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I think we have this perception about our relationships outside of us. It's not just about us. It's actually everybody else. Oh, they're in a bad mood, or that's happening for them, or I just wish they would stop doing that, and all that sort of stuff. And we forget about the level of energy and input that our awareness has on those relationships.
Yeah,
Yeah.
big time. And usually that's how we roll is we think it's kind of all outside of us and how can we have really any impact in that relationship beyond what we say and do and that sort of thing. But there's a lot more going on than meets the eye. And really it does come back to first what's happening in our internal world. So what's getting the power within ourselves? And I mean, by that I mean, is it our dysfunction? Therefore, is it our stories or our sense of incompleteness? How am I not enough in the world? We're all running this kind of story, aren't we?
Yeah, absolutely.
From our past.
Yeah, that's it. And I think as a human, I think the first thing that we do is go, and obviously this is all happening under the surface, but it's like, how safe am I? And how can I make this better for myself? Like, how can I benefit? And that's where we refer to those stories, right? So we go back to our past and we're not really focused on what's happening in the present. And in a way, we overlay everything with those expectations. So we're unconsciously setting intentions. We're setting up the energy, the interaction with a certain person in alignment with those unconscious stories and what we expect of them, what they're going to bring out in us. And I think that happens with everybody. Like, even if it's your mum, your kids, your boss, whatever, we've got that perception of who they are, what sort of a mood they're in, what's going on in their life right now that we think is going on, and how are we going to be safe and how we're going to be able to benefit in some way, shape or form.
Yeah, we're kind of biased toward all of that, and when we're running in autopilot, they're the sorts of things that are getting the power within ourselves. And they're the sorts of things that we will see reflected back to us in our relationships that we have with others, intimate relationships and beyond. And so at best, what we'll find is that our relationships are kind of surface level. They don't really have a lot of depth to them. And eventually, sooner or later, a lot of people sort of become, frustrated by that or disheartened by that. How come I can't have the relationships I'd love to have? Or, there's just a sense that something's missing. And that's often where it is. It's like about becoming more conscious of what's happening in here. What assumptions am I believing to be true about myself and about others and about what's possible here and what's not, without even questioning it, because I don't even know that I'm making these assumptions. So, starting to explore that inner world a bit.
Yeah. Well, I think let's define what like a high level relationship, whether it's intimate or not, doesn't matter. But what's a high level relationship? What are those attributes? And I'd have to say it's things like I just get to be me. Like, I feel authentic, that I don't have to put on a show or any particular mask to show up in a particular relationship. So that'd be one attribute.
Yeah, and I think that where neither person needs something from that other person or from the relationships. There's not a neediness there, but rather it's a shared experience where each person contributes to that, with their energy, with their presence, whatever it might be, but there's this mutual sharing or contribution that goes on.
Yeah, and I think that's based on that understanding of, we're here to augment each other's lives rather than, horse trading or I did this, you did that, tit for tat sort of orientation, because that can get really skewy really quickly, can't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's a really good point. Yeah. Anything else that you can think of off the top of your head?
That there's an alignment, that maybe it's the differences that attract us to each other in a relationship. relationship, whatever relationship that is. It's the differences, but that there's an alignment. And what you'll notice too is that when you're in a higher caliber relationship, that there is an alignment there, and it's of an expansive nature, and the quality, there's a greater depth to it. It's like you're more present. You feel like you want to dive in deeper, and when that interaction's finished or whatever, you're looking forward to the next one.
Yeah. Okay, I get that too. So, and the other thing I was just thinking of is that when we remember that any other person in this world is not going to preclude us, whatever they're doing is not going to preclude us from having what we would love. Even if they're not supportive, they might even be detractive of that, say, oh, you shouldn't do that, and that sort of thing. But that doesn't have any power unless we give it power. So when we're in an authentic relationship, we can be with that feedback and go, oh, okay, well, that's interesting, why you think and feel like that. And I can listen to that, but I'll still continue on whatever is true for me. And that may be to not do that thing because you go, oh, okay, yeah, I didn't consider that. But it may very well be that you already know that that's something that you're going to do, and that their lack of support or encouragement is not a necessity as part of that. So, I know I'm going on a little tangent here, but I think it's important because it's one of those feedbacks that we try to see if we're getting acceptance. If someone's supporting what we're doing, then it seems like, all of a sudden, I'm getting acceptance, and so I'm allowed to. But once we get to a certain age, there should be no allowing in terms of I need to have permission to do anything. If it's true for you, you should be able to follow through on it no matter what. And it doesn't need to have some sort of trade-off going on or anything like that. It's just a matter of, no, this is what I'm doing. I'm creating that in my world. And, not that someone else's opinion isn't sought or talked about or whatever, but it's because we don't want to create aloof relationships in life. We'd rather have interactive, contributive relationships with each other, but we don't necessarily need the things we think we need in order to move forward.
Yeah, that's right. Well, even along those lines, if we're kind of again in our dysfunction, we're running on autopilot, we're not really questioning the assumptions we're making and how we're traveling, then what we'll find too is we can surrogate things with regard to our partner in a relationship, meaning that there might be something that's true for me to get on with, to create in my life and to lean into. But I explain or make excuses and justify them based on my partner, whether that's business partner or life partner, whoever it is, on them not agreeing or not being in alignment with, not supporting or whatever, then that's a good excuse for me not to lean into the unknown and get on with what's true for me. So surrogacy can be a thing that sort of gets the power when we're unconscious about how we're going about our internally and how that's reflected externally in our relationship.
Absolutely. Like, those 5 main excuses, surrogacy is a big one. It's right up there. Oh, I need to ask such and such, or I wouldn't do that because I wouldn't be, that person wouldn't approve, So it's right up there with money, time, self-righteousness, self-righteousness. So yeah, brilliant. Very good. Okay, so we've explored a little bit about the attributes of a functional relationship, and there is much more to that than that. So when we talk about how your relationships are a reflection of your internal landscape, how does that play out a bit more? Like, what sort of things do we notice in people when that's getting the power, those unconscious stories and wounds and things?
Yeah, well, there can be different dynamics in our relationships, but one where there might be a power struggle. It's like, if what's getting the power in our internal world is our wounded stories of the past where I wasn't allowed to be capable or I was powerless, in my life as a kid. And we know that we bring those beliefs, those unconscious beliefs about ourselves, us and the world forward. If that's what gets the power, then you can find that your relationship dynamic you'll often be in a struggle for power, and you'll be if that's you who's sort of unconscious landscape puts the power in a sense of powerlessness in your relationship, often you'll be the one who's being forceful or aggressive or angry or whatever, but always, trying to control what's going on, to feel a sense of power, to compensate for a sense of powerlessness. So that can be one way it shows up.
And actually, what I notice with a lot of that powerlessness play, often they won't do it with the spouse. Sometimes they do because it's the safest person to do it with, and they don't display it in the rest of the world. But sometimes they feel powerless to the spouse and they don't want to rock the boat or whatever. So then they go and take that out on the rest of the world. So it could be a co-worker or, someone in the, serving them at the service station or something like that. All of a sudden they become a target because they feel powerless elsewhere, at home or with their kids or whatever it happens to be. So, these sorts of things are playing out. And essentially, I think, there's obviously several other dynamics that we could use as examples. Like, for example, if you feel like you don't belong, you might be putting some power into that. And maybe you only feel like you belong at home. And it's like, oh, I've got my little clique, I've got my little tribe. And then going out into the big wide world is super scary. So it's like, oh, I'm invisible. I don't want to be seen. Don't talk to me. That sort of thing. Head down. No community connection whatsoever. So, your unconscious leaves clues as to what's going on internally for you. And it's all just about the awareness of that so that then you can choose. Because there's nothing wrong with living in your dysfunction. Plenty of people do it. Doesn't really threaten our survival. So we can do it, but it's not necessarily the fun, most authentic and magnetic way to be.
Yeah, and it there's a cost to it. That's all. It really has, by nature, it shrinks our world down. It shrinks what we're making ourselves available to in our lives as an experience. It shrinks that down. And in the context of this video, it really minimizes the depth to which we get to experience our relationships. And relationships, they're a big deal because when we don't consider it, it's just like, oh, yeah, whatever society reckons the relationships are about and whatever. But they actually, when you're having good relationships, you'll notice that the quality of your relationships then is reflected into the key areas of your life as well. Business is going well, finances are traveling well, things start to flow when your relationships are a quality. And you are the one, primarily you're the one who has responsibility or can take responsibility for seeing that being that way, Yeah. You're not powerless to that because there's somebody else involved. It's an inside journey that's reflected out. But when relationships aren't so great,
then everything's challenged. Yeah. It's like, it's always in the back of your mind. You've got this nagging feeling of things just not going well. And I think that's part of our survival as well in our neurology, because as we know, if you get kicked out of the herd, you are at danger of death. If we're back in tribal days and we still have those genes firmly entrenched into our bodies, if that was getting the power, it'd be like, no, I cannot be cast out. Cast out means death. So we are wired to be on high alert for where those possibilities exist for being rejected or put down or called out or anything, whatever it is. We try to fit in and we do it dysfunctionally rather than orientating to our central core and who we are. Having that relationship with ourselves first and then being able to radiate that sense of wholeness out into the world, because that's a very different energy that you're giving out, or state of being. Even if you don't believe about energy transmission, that's totally fine. Just the fact you are going to act and behave completely differently when you feel whole and complete in yourself than if you are out there living through that unconscious story. That's, actions and behaviors are going to show up completely differently. It's, very much going to be about control, manipulation, shrinkage, whatever it is going to serve you based on your story and your unconscious beliefs.
Very much so.
Yeah.
So if this is resonating for you, we cover topics like this and a lot more over on our school
channel.
community.
Yeah, community. That's right. We do.
So we're going to put the link to that school community down
In the comments?
comments.
Yeah, absolutely. And share it with a friend or your spouse, if you like. Let's start examining our external results as basically an observation exercise of what's going on inside, an awareness exercise. And just notice if and when you do shift it, what else shifts? Because every day's a new day.
True.
All right, we'll see you in True North Aligned on school. See you soon.
Bye.